Hey, what's going on, guys? It is me here, praxzz, and I'm gonna make a Bedwars tips and tricks video, based off all the stuff that I've learned for playing for the past while, and I haven't really seen a good video in a while, so, um, also not to mention, this is gonna be more focused on, like, strictly, like, normal Bedwars, um, than, like, something like ranked, because I believe there's a huge difference between the two, and I'm not even good at ranked. Like, I've played like 20 games of it in my life, so there's not really much to base any tips and tricks off of. However, I am a pretty good like public game player, so obviously that's what I'm going to be teaching, or like saying my tips and tricks, my strategies, to win as many games as possible. So yeah, let's begin. So, the first tip that I think is honestly the most important is find people to play with consistently, because if you're constantly going into lobby 1, you're not going to have any like people that know how you play, that you know how they play. So it's really hard to get like chemistry with random people each time. However, once you find a friend group or even just one other person that you can play with as much as possible, you're obviously going to get better playing with them as time goes on. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with finding lobby 1 parties or whatever, but it's just, I think you're kind of leading yourself to less wins by playing with people you don't know, and even then, like, they might not be a great teammate, and you're going in blind to a lobby 1 party, whereas if you play with the same people as much as possible, at least, you're going to know, okay, this person's going to defend, this person's best at rushing, etc. So that's why I believe finding people you consistently play well with is the most important part. And obviously solos exist, and I'm not a solos pro, so I can't really speak too much on it, but I do know the fundamental basics, and I will touch more onto that in a couple minutes. But with any teams mode, find people that you can constantly play with, and like it doesn't have to be 100 people, but it also can just be one, even two people, and it'll make your life and their lives 100 times easier. Okay, the second tip is find maps that you play well on and know how to do, because obviously queuing every map, especially as a non, that's gonna happen. But most people who grind the game want to get better, tend to be MVP plus or above. So that's why I'm saying find maps to play on. So in my case, I really love like Solus, and when that's in rotation, that's almost the only map I queue. And there's certain maps I avoid, such as Dragon Star or Deadwood, because I'm just not a big fan of them, and I tend to not do as well on them, just because of whatever reason. More specifically, Dragon Star, you're just gonna get mid rushed, so it's a really unsafe map. But if you like it, play it. Obviously, each person has their own preferences, but as someone who's played Solus over 1,000 times, I'm obviously really good at it. Whether that be playing normally or clutching, I can win 99.9% of games on it. I'd even wager I could win more. Okay, so now I'm gonna start talking about each mode and the strategies based in it. So, the first obviously will be solo. Now, solo mains, they tend to prefer pace, but they're the ones on leaderboard. And out of any solo players I know, most are leaderboard and or going for leaderboard. And they say you want to prioritize pace so that you can get faster wins. Now, that leaves them losing a bit more than any other mode. And a great example is literally just look at the stats of everybody on solo leaderboard compared to doubles, threes, fours. There is a major stat difference, and not saying stats matter necessarily, but if you're watching this, I'm sure you do want to get better stats. So, yeah, so I do have a couple strats in solo. One that I use, and that's find a map that the sweats don't play on. And even then, when you queue a sweat, a lot of them really aren't that good in solo, and they're less focused on clutching if it's going to be a long game. They want to get into the next one, win quick, you know? So you can most likely beat most solo mains like Patty XE and JBC. But they all queue maps like Deadwood, Nebuk, Yui, whatever it's called. All of those maps. So the best way to not queue them is to not queue the super quick maps. I personally like to queue bigger maps in solo. Don't queue Amazon if you don't want to queue Spin Town, but he's very beatable. Just don't let him get mid. You'll be completely fine. Sorry, I hit my mic. But yeah. So in solo, in my opinion, the best way to secure a win, prioritize diamonds. A lot of solo mains go for pace. They're not necessarily going for diamonds. So if you go rush a base, get the diamonds as fast as possible. Get a trap so you know if you're gonna lose bed. And honestly, in solos, you should play like you don't have a bed a lot of the time, because you rush one way, Anon's gonna come the other way. It's gonna happen. So I wouldn't try to save your bed at all costs. I would try and prioritize diamonds and even getting emeralds early game. A great way to clutch solo is literally do what Hashido and Zeit did and buy a punch bow if there's one mishap. So I think you have to use your gear to the advantage in solo, because you don't have a second, third, or fourth player to like capitalize on. Now, doubles is my main mode, so this is going to be probably the best tips that I could give you. And it is a lot more focused on winning. So if there's a tough team that you can and you can double rush, do it. If you're struggling with a team for more than a few rushes, as long as there's nobody rushing you on the other side, ask your teammate, and if you can take them out fast, it's going to basically guarantee a win, because if you're taking out the sweaty team first, then it's just free from that point on. So try to do that as fast as possible. Sometimes you're going to be double rushed from both sides. In that scenario, try to not worry about your bed, because if you can take out one team, the game's going to become 10 times easier. But still, like, don't just throw it. But if you can get out one team by like skipping and asking your teammate to stay near base because you'll have two people rushing, do that. The best way to prevent like this happening is get your first rush out super quickly and prioritize diamonds so that you can take out teams faster. So I'm just going to keep on going back to Solus. There's diamond gens on each side. So you take out first rush, one person goes to one person goes to the other. If you can get prod in a trap ASAP, do it. If you can rush a team and get their bed instantly, do that. Because in the long run, taking out any enemies is going to be better. But if you can't instantly do that, diamonds are going to help win the game so much easier. Especially on a map like Solus where you can control two diamond gens at once. You're going to have the major upper hand compared to a team with only one diamond gen. If needed, you can steal like diamonds and void them if they're going to kill you. This will prevent them from getting gear. So in doubles as well as solos, like, gear is so important. Just because it's like you're going to be 2v1ing a lot of the time. So you're going to want to outgear them. And obviously be able to out PvP them. But yeah. I would try to prioritize making sure you will always have a gapple on you once you have iron armor at least, so that you fight one, you can gap or pre-gapping in a 2v1, you can maybe get the upper hand and win that fight. So yeah, resources. That's all you need in doubles, honestly. The next mode obviously is threes. I've played my fair share. I have my own strats. I'm gonna link below a forum post by Swan. He mentioned a great strategy to win threes and more. I helped him with some stuff. And I'm gonna mention some of the stuff here, but he goes way more in depth than I will ever go into threes because I just don't play too much threes anymore. But the major thing is make sure you have somebody as a defender, someone rushing as fast as possible, especially on maps like Deposit and Lost Temple where you can 48 or 32 rush. I forget exactly how much. I'm never the rusher, so yeah. But yeah, and threes and fours will have more snipers, so I'll touch on how to beat that in the next section. So fours is similar to threes. However, you're dealing with an extra player on each team, but normally you can either 2, 3, or 4 send an annoying team. So you'll see in fours there's going to be a lot more parties. These are normally lobby 1 parties, so you can get them out super quickly, super easily, and honestly without too much hassle. But the best strat is to make sure you take out your first rush fast so you're not getting 12 cent. And if a team is cross mapping you, you're gonna have to do it back. You're gonna have to protect your bed because fours is a lot harder to clutch than doubles just because there's not more people, but there's gonna be teams that really want you, and especially once you're in a sweaty game, you're really gonna want to keep your bed. So try to keep your bed as much as possible, and obviously there's certain times where you can't preserve it, and that's fine. You don't need to. It's just going to make the game a lot bigger of a hassle. But try to keep threes a similar strat to, fours a similar strat to threes, and just play, have one defender. You could do the IYN strat, but I think it's a little outdated now. And honestly, just 12 endstone face a normal defense with 1 extra layer at the front is just as good, if not better, than a butterfly defense. And honestly, if you have a good fours party, nobody's making it to your base, and if they do, they're not getting your bed. But yeah, so I'm gonna move on to the next section, and that is beating snipers. So there's multiple ways, and obviously they're not always possible to clutch these games, but there is a couple things that you can do to prevent losing to them as much as possible. So the easiest way to kill a sniper is fireballing them off. Now, you may be asking, well, most of them have an anti-fireball hack, so how am I supposed to do that? And I'm going to outline 2 ways to do that. So the first one is literally just fireballing them off. Now, it's not that self-explanatory. So the first thing you do is make sure you have a teammate, because that's the only way this is going to work. Now, sometimes if you both throw a fireball the exact same time at them, the anti-fireball can only hit 1 back. So you're going to throw 2 at the same time and 1 can get them. This is best if they're scaffolding over the void or something sort of like that. Now, the fireballs don't have to hit the same exact spot. They just have to be close enough to the sniper that it toggles their anti-fireball. That way is probably the easiest, least scary way to do it. The next is a lot of snipers are becoming a lot smarter about this because they tend to die from this, and that is fireball jumping while fighting them on a bridge. I've beaten so many snipers doing this, and it's kind of sad, but a lot of them fall for it because they just want to kill you, and a bridge fight is a guaranteed win for a B-hopper except it's really not, because you can do that. Some of them will have anti-void or something like that, which will affect this, but it's still possible to fireball them off like that. But a lot of them will build over you now, which is what I've noticed. So, you're gonna have to do other things now. Another way, to beat a sniper is just getting stacked. And as long as you have two people alive and it's a 2v1 against a sniper, it is killable, provided you guys have good aim. um, yeah. So getting stacked, the sniper's also gonna get stacked, but you can prevent that as much as possible. So a great way to do this is fireball the diamond gens. This also works for normal clutches. Fireballing diamond gens will get rid of the diamonds as long as you hit the gen, obviously. And if there's like 8 diamonds in there, that's gonna set the sniper back so much, and it's really useful. So, and even do that with emeralds if you're not in mid. You don't want them to have mid control. Try to keep that as much as possible, and you can do that. Snipers will be afraid to fight you once you have certain gear. A diamond armor, diamond sword combo, if you and one more teammate get it, you are most definitely killing the sniper, provided they don't have the same gear. So just try your best. Snipers will try to get higher damage weapons, and obviously you want to prioritize getting protection and stuff. But if you can out damage the sniper, or at least like deal enough to them, they will die because they want to kill you fast. So they're gonna get something like a diamond sword or a pearl to pearl on you. You can counteract that by getting same gear and having multiple people alive. Once it's a 1v1, it is very, very tough to win. Which brings me to the next point. Use rotational items. These are so useful. The current rotation kind of sucks, honestly. It's like hay bales and a teleporter. The teleporter isn't bad, but it's not great, and you know, you can only do so much with it. But I think like there's certain items that I really, really like, such as the machine gun bow, which is exactly what it says, except you left click the bow and it'll shoot an arrow, and you can do that as fast as possible. I forget the exact speed. I don't know if there's actually a speed cap. The next one is the Devastator bow. This one is super overpowered. It takes away half their health. So if it's in rotation, obviously all of these can be used to kill sweats or closet cheaters. As well as Sharp 2 in Sleeping Dust is super useful. Sharp 2, obviously, it is 16 emeralds in doubles. Not too sure what it is in fours. I'm pretty sure it's like 40. Unaware exactly, but and then Sleeping Dust, as I mentioned, you can freeze a player. It's, I think, for 10 seconds. I don't know. And then just fireball the bridge out from under them, and they can't do anything. So it's a super useful item, and I'd really recommend using it. So yeah, you can obviously use this against like closet cheaters. Usually you don't need to do so much against them, but some of them are pretty blatant. So use what you deem necessary. Don't go into fights you can't take. Blah blah blah. If you're queued by multiple snipers, play aggressive. Don't try to keep your bed, because in the long run they're going to get it regardless of what you do, because bhoppers will win 99% of the fights, and that's fine. Just make sure you can get their bed, and once they're finals, they are not too hard to kill. Make sure you like shout in the game. Sometimes nons will go for them, so shout blank is hacking. Don't say bhopping, because a lot of them don't know what that means, but just call them out for hacking, ask them to target. Make sure you get resources, and if you somehow manage to keep a bed, there are a couple traps you can use to kill them easier. So the first off is the blindness trap. You can use this and it'll slow them down, and Obviously, they still know where you are. They're still going to hit you with their kill aura, but it'll slow them down and mess them up so you can hit them easier. Yeah. So, my next tip is get traps before any other upgrade. This will make you aware if your bed's going to go. It'll help you save your bed. They're super useful. My best example is in doubles, you have 4 diamonds. Get prod in a trap instead of sharp, because you won't lose your bed, or if you do, you'll know, oh, I gotta go to mid, I gotta collect diamonds, blah blah blah. And if you have a minor fatigue, you can have your teammate stall, let you void. All of that is super useful with a trap. So yeah, the best trap is minor fatigue, but as mentioned earlier, that it's a trap is also super useful, and it will inhibit their PvP capabilities. So I think it is worthy to actually use. If somebody's super stacked or they're out PvPing you, this will screw them up as long as it triggers when they're on the ground with you. They might be able to escape, but most of the times you can kill them. And even then, it's for 8 seconds, so your teammate has time to void. The illusion trap is super useful, mainly against finals. So theoretically, you are alive with one other team left, and they're getting super stacked, and they're about to rush you. If they rush you and you have a illusion trap, one of them's teleporting back to their base. So guess what? You have the ability to 2v1 one of those players and get a 10 times easier kill. Or if you're doing it in 3s and 4s, you can 3 or 4v1 that player. And that is super useful. Yeah. So in my opinion, the way to go about this is get trap, then prot 1, then sharp, then you upgrade your prot from then on. If you need something like haste, or even Iron Forge could be useful on maps like Solus, where there's really slow gens, and you can get a faster gen than a fast iron map by just buying Iron Forge. So yeah. So the next tip is try to avoid any fights. Bedwars is not really a PvP game. It's a game sense game. This is why many ranked players really aren't that good at normal games. And obviously they're going to excel in PvP, and I'm not denying that. But a lot of them don't have as much game sense as somebody who's played 10,000 normal games. So you're going to be most likely better than most ranked players if you have played a considerable amount of normal games. Obviously, they do excel in like doing shearing blocks away and playing annoying, but you can still win against them because you're going to be a pretty good player if you play a lot of public games. So if you can safely skip a player or team, and keep your bed, or notify your teammates, oh, I'm skipping this player or this team, do it, because guess what? Fights are just going to stall the game. If you can get that bed and then get those finals, perfect. Another method, or another part to add on to this is only force fights when you're a final or they're trying to get your bed. There's no reason to make yourself lose a ton of health in a fight and have to gap or have to go back to base to use your heal pool or whatever, when you can just avoid the fight, make them chase you, and get their bed while doing that. You should theoretically get less normal kills than finals. Obviously, some games are just, that's not going to happen, especially when you're getting like multiple teams sending you at the same time. So don't like avoid fights that you need to take, but try to avoid any fights as well. And adding on to that point, try to make sure you outgear the player. So this could be in many ways. It's either, oh, I have prot, they don't, or I have prot and sharp, they only have prot or sharp, I have better gear, or like even I have better health, but we have the same gear, so I can probably kill them. Take fights you know you can take, and this also like extends to literally every mode. So Sky Wars, duels, mega walls, like literally anything. Just don't take fights you really don't need to. If you want to prioritize the win, you want to get better stats, don't worry about anything except winning. So yeah. Tip number 10, use items to your advantage. So I'll give you a few examples and how to use them. So bows are amazing for clutching situations, or when you're like the last team with a bed, you can just camp bed and bow people. So it's super useful. And obviously, if you get a punch bow, as long as you don't get like invised or pearled to, you are untouchable. There's no reason to take fights with a bow when you can keep them at a distance, or even just using them such as like a rod. You can get combos much easier if you just bow. Fireballs have many use cases, including escaping or pushing fights. So if I'm getting 2v1'd by two people in diamond armor and I only have prot 1 iron, I can fireball jump either up or away somewhere else so that I can avoid that fight and escape alive. Or I can push a player when I'm in diamond armor who's only in iron. They're a final. They've been collecting diamonds. You can get those diamonds from them. Also, you can literally just kill people with fireballs. So you can hit them off bridges, especially while they're finals, or bringing back a ton of diamonds. Another great use case is you're in a 1v1 or even 2v1 and you need to get an upper leg on them, fireball them. They're going to either get hit by the fireball and get sent further away so you can run away, regen a heart or two, or they're going to get sent in the air, get fall damage, and be even lower than you by multiple hearts, and you can win the fight safely. Another item that's super useful that I think has been talked about a lot more recently, but in the past couple years it's only become useful, and that's water. Now, you see a lot of people watering each other, but that's not the only way you can do it, even just using it to clutch. So I've gotten beds by just building really high up, skipping people, dropping down and clutching with the water and getting their bed, and they're like, oh crap, why did I build up? Because I'm just gonna die of fall damage. Another super useful item is golden apples. They will win you 100 times more fights if you use a gapple every time. The extra health is super good, and if you pre-gap, you'll have that regen, or even mid-fight you can run away, gap, go back in, and you're gonna have way more health than the other person. They're super overpowered, especially early game, so I'd recommend using those as much as possible. The last item that I'm going to talk about is magic milk. You don't have to be invis to magic milk. Literally just use it when you know a team's annoying, sweaty, whatever. If you can avoid a trap, you're going to get a bet 10 times easier without alerting them. Or even if you skip someone and they don't know, you can just magic milk. They won't know. Maybe they'll fall into the void and be like, oh crap, I'm a final now, you know? Yeah, so that's basically it for the items section. Those are like, obviously fireballs aren't underused, or bows even, but a lot of sweats don't use them as well as they should. The final tip that I'm going to give is know what to buy and when to buy it. So I think the best example of this is something like, oh, should I buy a set of pots, or a pearl? And there's certain situations, certain maps you should do it on. Because maps like Krogorm, you're not going to be able to pearl clutch very easily. So maybe buy a set of pots and then get the pearl. Or on maps where you can easily pearl clutch, I'd say Solus is pretty easy because you can build at any point of the diamond gen. So you can clutch there. Maybe get a pearl first. But yeah, that's honestly it for this video. This is really long. I didn't even mean to ramble on this long, but there's a lot of nuances to Bed Wars, so I really hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, so like, subscribe, thanks.